I'm Matt McClure.
And I'm Francesca Maxime, and this is Currents.
A prayer for peace in the Middle East as different faiths come together at St. James Cathedral.
We have seen enough bloodshed everywhere. It is time that we all pray in the unity of God, come together in peace.
A day after the Vatican accepts his resignation, a beloved Brooklyn bishop joins us for a look back.
And these pieces may look like they belong in MOMA, but they're actually on display in a local church.
We really believe that contemporary art can really speak and express something of spirituality, really connect us.
Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us. There is good news tonight about the prospect for peace in the Middle East, something we all want to hear. The Associated Press reports U.S., Israeli, and Palestinian leaders believe an impasse in peace talks, well, that it could break sometime soon.
A source close to the negotiations told the AP that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu appears to be close to a compromise on whether his country should keep building settlements on disputed land. Palestinian leaders seem to be on the same page, and none of the negotiators want the talks to break down.
And neither do church leaders here in New York. And last night, the Diocese of Brooklyn held a special prayer service for peace in the Middle East.
It happened at St. James Cathedral in downtown Brooklyn, and our cameras were there.
One of the real frustrating things for me is that we have the most beautiful faith in the world as Christians. And because we're free, we take it for granted. Christians in the Middle East never take one day for granted whenever they make the sign of the cross. They don't know if they'll see the rest of the day. They don't know what will happen. They don't know of the political situation. They do know that they're a distinct minority, and oftentimes they feel unwanted, unappreciated.
Tonight, as neighbors in this city, neighbors as religious people, we come to pray for peace and concord for religious people here, but also for the people of the Middle East, whose faith mirrors our own in its great diversity. We come tonight as one of our participants, Bishop Mansour, prepares to leave for the synod called by Pope Benedict XVI on the Middle East. What the synod is calling all the bishops of the area, plus bishops from around the world who have an interest in the area, to see what we can come up with together. There's a working document that's been put together for the synod, and in the 3 weeks that are part of the synod, they will rework it, see what fits, what they don't feel does fit, and then there will be a final document published several months from now that will give us a kind of a blueprint, a model for what Christians could do in the Middle East to witness to their faith.
We pray for the vision to see and the faith to believe. In a world beset with violence, in a world where fear shall no longer lead men to commit injustices, nor selfishness make them bring suffering to others.
We were here with the Orthodox Christians, with Protestant Christians. We had two Muslim groups, the Sunni and the Druze group. We had the Jewish rabbi was here. So we really covered all of the major religions that are part of the Middle East scene. And we do mirror, I think, what we'd like to see in the Middle East, a place where people see each other as neighbors, where they treat each other with respect, and where they do help one another.
All the religions are inviting the people to live in peace and in harmony. Unfortunately, some people misuse some part of the religion, and they use the religion to fight each other. We are here to let everybody knows that the peace can apply by following the real teaching of any religion, Jewish or Christian or Muslims. We are all have same aim, and that is to be close to God, and that is to live peacefully with each other.
Well, just a moment ago, you heard Bishop DiMarzio talk about bishops from the Middle Eastern countries actually converging on Rome. They actually start Sunday for that special synod to discuss religious and political unrest in the Middle East. The Vatican says the gathering will also focus on religious freedom, changing cultures, and other issues.
Indeed. Well, stay where you are. There's more currents coming up. Church leaders from Ireland met with Vatican officials this week to talk about that country's sex abuse scandal. We have that story, plus the rest of the day's headlines, next.
Welcome back to Currents. I'm Matt McClure.
And I'm Francesca Maxime. Coming up just a bit later, a thought-provoking art exhibit at a local church.
But first, let's have a look at today's headlines. Irish archbishops met this week with Vatican officials and the church leaders who will oversee the investigation of clergy sex abuse in the Irish Church. Pope Benedict first announced the visitation in March after revelations of widespread abuse in Ireland. A statement from the Irish Bishops' Conference says leaders will give particular attention to the victims and their families, but they'll hold meetings with a variety of people during the visit. In other Vatican news, the 33 trapped Chilean miners sent a gift to Pope Benedict. It was a signed Chilean flag. The Pope said he's closely monitoring the situation. He hopes the miners will be rescued as soon as possible. In an address he gave after meeting Chile's new ambassador to the Vatican, the Pope said the miners and their families, quote, are always present in my prayers. Well, the latest word from Chile is that crews could rescue the trapped miners as early as tomorrow. Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad says he wants to work with the Vatican to stop religious intolerance and the breakup of families. In a letter delivered to the Pope, Ahmadinejad appealed to world religions to cooperate in fighting secularism and materialism. Ahmadinejad also praised the Pope for condemning an American pastor's plan to hold a Quran burning last month. Anglican Archbishop Desmond Tutu is stepping down from public life. Tutu announced back in July that he would retire on his 79th birthday, which was today. Tutu is one of the leading figures in the anti-apartheid movement in his home country of South Africa. He was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize back in 1984. Tutu says he wants to spend more time with his family and also spend a little more time watching cricket.
Pro-life groups in Mexico are working to lower the country's maternal death rate. At a conference this week, advocates pointed to a number of factors, including not having access to health care to treat complications that arise during deliveries. One pro-life leader says work is needed on public policies that support pregnant women. From Saudi Arabia, a group of Philippine Catholics was arrested for organizing a private mass. Police raided the mass, which was taking place in a hotel. Under Saudi law, non-Muslims can only worship in non-Muslim homes. Authorities later released the group on bail. Reports that an Australian nun and future saint was excommunicated are false. That, according to a priest who advocated for the sainthood of Blessed Mary MacKillop, who is set to be canonized next month. Some media outlets reported she was excommunicated for speaking out against sex abuse in the church. That claim is based on remarks the priest gave in a documentary. He says, though, that his words have been twisted to suit the ill will of the media.
And also just a quick reminder here, tomorrow is the deadline to register to vote in this year's general election. So get to it, all right? You can register in person at your local Board of Elections, or you can do it through the mail. Applications have to be postmarked no later than Friday and received by the Board of Elections no later than October 13th.
Exercise your right.
That's right.
Well, stay tuned. There's more currents coming up. Just ahead, it's official. The Vatican accepts Bishop Guy Sansaric's resignation. He'll join us to discuss it. Earlier this week, Pope Benedict accepted the resignation of Brooklyn Auxiliary Bishop Guy Sansaric. Bishop Sansaric offered his letter of resignation last year after reaching the mandatory retirement age of 75. His resignation was accepted yesterday, which was, coincidentally, Bishop Sansaric's 76th birthday. His almost 40 years in the Diocese of Brooklyn has been punctuated with great achievements. Ordained a bishop in 2006, he was the diocese's first black bishop and is the first Haitian American bishop in the U.S. Most recently, he's been actively involved in relief efforts following the devastating earthquake in his homeland of Haiti. And joining us now in the studio is the birthday boy himself, Bishop Guy Saint-Cyrique. Thank you so much for joining us on Currents.
Thank you for inviting me, and I would like to wish peace to all those who are listening at the moment.
Well, thank you so much, and congratulations on your entire retirement and happy birthday. It's
Thank you very much.
Quite a birthday present for you.
Well, it was expected because it's a policy. It's not a letter of dismissal, nor a letter of rejection. It's a normal policy that at 76 you must retire.
Okay.
But actually that will have no impact on my real life, because when you're a priest forever. When you're a bishop forever. So I will continue to perform the same services, but I belong to a different category.
Sure. Well, that's good. Okay. Well, we'll accept that little shift in your position, if you will.
Okay.
Talk to me though about the 40 years that you did spend. What are some of your highlights, or maybe one of the biggest highlights that you've seen, that you were involved in?
Yes. Here I was in the parish of the Sacred Heart in Cambria Heights for 22 years, and that was at the beginning of the apostolate to the Haitian population in New York, in the Diocese of Brooklyn, and that was very exciting. It coincided with a turning point in the history of Haiti, when people were running away from the country because of the political turbulence, and it was important to welcome them. And possibly one of my high point in Cambria Heights was creation of an agency which is called Haitian American United for Progress. It was very difficult, but we were able to create that agency, which is still very much alive today in Cambria Heights in Queens. The purpose of which was to respond to the social needs of the Haitian people. But suddenly came a larger wave of people, therefore it was necessary to extend ourselves to them pastorally and, of course, humanly speaking, because you cannot separate religion from life, you know.
Right. But what are some of the things that will be different for you that you might enjoy?
We have to, there was a creation also of the National Center for the Haitian Apostolate. Very quickly we realized that it was not enough to serve. There were very few Haitian priests at the moment to serve only the Haitians here, but to extend our services nationwide. So I was in touch with then Father Wensky, who is now the Archbishop of Miami, who was then serving the Haitian people. He is from Polish extraction, but very, very dedicated. And we extended ourselves to the people in Boston, which had only one priest, and everywhere. And therefore, at the request of the Bishops' Conference, and especially Father Tomasi, who was an Italian priest, was working in the Bishops' Conference office for migrants and refugees. He called on me and asked me to create the National Center. And
Great.
This was created in 1988.
Right.
And the National Center is still in existence after 22 years. Every week we produce a newsletter that is sent out by email to more than 3,000 people. And in 2 weeks we will also add a radio program of 8 hours on the website.
Bishop Guy, that sounds amazing, and we'll definitely look forward to that and let
Yes.
viewers know about the website. Talk to me a little bit about Haiti. Obviously, that earthquake in January was very devastating to so many people. What do you see happening there for the future, and also to the Diocese of Brooklyn for all the Haitians here?
Yes. There are two things that I can highlight. Number one, Bishop DiMarzio, who incidentally was involved also in the creation of the National Haitian Center, because he was in Washington as a young Father DiMarzio, After the earthquake, he asked some Haitian priests from here to go to Port-au-Prince as a sign of solidarity, because a number of Haitian priests and seminarians sisters have been killed. And some 4 Haitian priests from the diocese went to Port-au-Prince in one of the most devastated areas, in an area that was called the kind of the forbidden city, because nobody dared going there. And they did a magnificent job, and I want to credit Father Miguel Auguste, who really has been marvelous in that particular work. But number 2, we must say that there has been a beautiful response from the international church. And a few weeks ago there was a meeting in Miami, and we realized at this point that there were $300 million that the international church wanted to offer to the rebuilding of Haiti. But of course they are not going to hand out this money immediately to the Haitian bishops. So therefore the Haitian bishops created a new agency called PROCHE, P-R-O-C-H-E, meaning P meaning partnership, R reconstruction of the churches in Haiti. And by next year, and of course the Haitian people will also participate, because there are more than 80 churches that have been totally destroyed, without counting the convent, the schools, the institutes for orphans, for the deaf, and for all sorts of other reasons. They've all been destroyed. And therefore, even the $300 million may appear like a big
drop in the bucket.
Figure. It is not sufficient.
Right.
And may I add that there was a suggestion was made. For instance, we have a church of the Sacred Heart in Port-au-Prince that was totally destroyed. And the Haitian bishop was suggesting that Sacred Heart churches from the whole world could contribute to the rebuilding of Sacred Heart Church, and the large schools that was next to, associated to the parish. Also, because the Haitian bishop insisted that they do not simply want to rebuild building, they want to rebuild the church, the spirit, educate the laity, because the laity is the body of Christ.
Right.
Okay.
Well, Bishop Guy, thank you so much for all of that and for continued happiness in your retirement, your official retirement. We know that you will keep on with all of your good works.
Yes, until my last breath, I will be in the service of God's people.
Thank you, Bishop Guy.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. Stay tuned. There's much more current straight ahead.
When we return, a look inside spirit, body, and soul, courtesy of a new art exhibit.
More and more I see that how we are all connected through God.
Well, finally tonight, controversial artwork like a Brazilian artist's sketch depicting him pointing a gun at Pope Benedict may make for compelling headlines. It also may make you think the relationship between art and the church is on the rocks. But as you're about to see, that is not at all the case.
Nope. One place where that relationship is actually thriving is St. Paul the Apostle Church, and that's down in Midtown Manhattan. That is where Openings, an artist collective led by Paulist father Frank Sabate, recently unveiled a provocative exhibit called Naked Measures. It explores the mystery of the spirit, body, and soul through a whole variety of media, actually.
It's a tough topic for anyone to handle, and even tougher to describe, because as you'll see here, this art is worth more than 1,000 words.
The theme of the exhibit is naked measures, and the artists have taken that in a lot of different directions, but one of the sort of themes that go throughout a lot of the artwork is the idea of sort of essentials and the reality that's underneath things. And the artists are kind of interpreting that in a lot of different ways. In some ways, that question is a spiritual question, so it's in some sense spiritual art, but it's not coming from religious artists or from a religious sort of background for the most part.
The fishing wire that I got wasn't as transparent as I would like to have been.
This was born out of the group Openings that meets in this church Tuesday nights. So it's a discussion group for sort of contemporary emerging artists who are interested in issues of spirituality.
We really believe that their art is that contemporary art can really speak and express something of spirituality, really connect us to a deeper level of spirituality that may not be obvious to people immediately.
I see the connection definitely between my work and seeking spirituality. More and more I see that how we are all connected through God or a bigger source. Yes, I definitely see the relationship.
They're all fascinated, interested, hungry for the spiritual. And so to be invited here to this venue, to this church, to show their work without saying, well, you must be religious, fit a certain category, is a very powerful experience for them. I've gotten feedback from artists that the experience of showing their work here it hits something very deep. We don't know what the results will be, but we do think that it's having an effect on people.
It is my first time showing in a church or any spiritual setting of this nature. But I mean, that is what made it all the more enticing. I don't know if it makes my work read in a different way, but it could. And it could make, more of a spirituality connection when it comes to the viscerality of sugar or, just the simplicity of the stark white, kind of happening. So, I mean, I kind of like the fact that, it can be ambiguous and the viewer can render it for themselves.
I hope that people come here and realize that they were able to have a conversation with people they never would have talked to before through the art, that perhaps they are opened up a little bit more, because essential to the spiritual life is openness. Once you close the door, you close yourself off from mystery.
Openness and openings.
That's right. St. Paul is such a gorgeous place to have an art exhibit like that. I mean, it's just, there's so much great art in St. Paul anyway, that it's, you would just add to it when you have an exhibit like that. And some very interesting, a lot more contemporary art, of course, in there now, and some very provocative, thought-provoking pieces.
Well, oftentimes that is the case with art, and in writing they kind of call it poetic license, and in a way there's actually an exhibit I think right now in Colorado that is stirring up a little controversy too. But the bottom line is that they're trying to express themselves, and Father Sabate, he was in here last year and had a nice conversation with him at the time about an exhibit that they were doing at the time. It's basically just pushing the boundaries of art a little bit in an effort to really kind of connect with your spirituality. And that's what they do. They connect with one another through their art there, and they're able to showcase it right there in St. Paul's. Yeah, you got to get people thinking, and you got to catch their attention, Catch their attention, and then they're going to say, oh, hey, what does this mean? Instead of, oh, well, that's a pretty picture, and move on, you know? Well, we're talking about catching things. You can still catch this exhibit over at St. Paul's, and maybe even taking a mass while you're there. Naked Measures is showing until October 29th. All right, well, that is it for tonight's show. But coming up tomorrow, we'll get the latest on reconfiguration in the Brooklyn Diocese. Bishop Caggiano will join us to talk about it. Until then, be sure to check us out online at currentsny.net. And we are also on Facebook and Twitter as well. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Francesca Maxime. And I'm Matt McClure. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.